So you want to learn about the Immaculate Conception? Now, before I begin, I would like to mention that the Immaculate Conception of Mary is a Catholic doctrine. However, in this video, I wish to be as educational as possible while explaining in really small detail of the reasoning behind this important dogma that shape the Catholic Church. With that, please enjoy. Now, what is original sin? We all know the story. Adam, Eve, the tree of knowledge, the devil as a serpent. However, the devil deceives Adam and Eve by making them believe that they can be just as powerful as God by eating from the tree of knowledge. In doing so, they disobey God's command by choosing Satan over God. God warned Adam and Eve that morality, sin, and death would be brought unto humanity if they ate fruit from the tree of knowledge, and it was fulfilled. Their sons and daughters would be affected, and theirs, with this sin, impurity, this fall of humanity created by Adam and Eve. This is what I mean by original sin. But God made a covenant against Satan, saying to the devil, I will put an enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. They will strike at your head, while you strike at their heel. But what does this mean? Is there going to be a man and a woman that is separated from Satan, thus being sinless? Every Christian can agree that this man is prophesied to be Jesus, but who is this woman, free from sin? Generations after Adam and Eve came, some were cool and faithful, but yet still sinned. However, in comes Mary. Unfortunately, we don't know much about Mary's life, but there are many Bible verses that have been interpreted by the Catholic Church that can suggest Mary's sinless state. Young Mary, coming from Nazareth, a small humble village in Galilee, betrothed to Joseph, her soon-to-be husband, was unexpectedly visited by an angel sent from God. At that instant, the angel Gabriel greeted her, saying, Hail, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women. So what does grace mean again? An unmerited divine assistance given to humans for their regeneration or sanctification, or virtue coming from God. Cool. Now, given this circumstance and the fact that a spiritual being is saying that a human is full of grace and blessed among women, speaks volumes in God's plan for Mary. Gabriel further mentions to Mary that she will receive the Son of God, which is a lot of responsibility most people wouldn't be able to handle. But what was Mary's reply?
Behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word.
This is important, as there have been many times and instances in the Bible where God trusted His will upon humanity, and either they didn't fully trust in God's plan, or they did, but they didn't fulfill it. We can all agree that Mary did have full trust in God's plan for her, and never in the Bible did it mention that Mary's plan was not fulfilled. Now, can this possibly suggest Mary's sinless state? Luke's first chapter is the most well-received at confirming the Immaculate Conception of Mary, but there are many more verses that are linked to it as well. Along with scriptural texts, sacred tradition, and beliefs of many of the early church fathers suggested the idea of Mary's role as the new Eve. Justin Martyr draws a parallel between Eve and Mary, presenting Mary as the new Eve who obeyed God in contrast to Eve's disobedience. The great Irenaeus recapitulation theology positions Mary as instrumental in reversing Eve's curse. Cyril of Jerusalem frequently refers to Mary as the Holy Virgin and emphasizes her purity in giving birth to Christ. Lastly, Ephraim the Syrian argues that Christ can only be born from a perfectly pure vessel, describing Mary as pure and spotless. What I mean by the Immaculate Conception is the belief where Mary is free from all sin, including, which is what makes it more or less controversial. Generally, many Christians at the time believed that it was possible that Mary did not sin throughout her life, but yet again it comes back to the question of whether or not she was free from original sin, and can put into question of Jesus' role of salvation for all. There have been many disputes between Christian Franciscans and Dominicans headed by both John Duns Scotus that favors the Immaculate Conception of Mary and Thomas Aquinas that didn't, as well as many religious councils that gathered Christians to define specifics in Mariology, original sin, and grace, however never really solidifying Mary's Immaculate Conception until by the 19th century, the Catholic Church sought to finally clarify the doctrine. In 1849, Pope Pius IX consulted bishops worldwide, and surprisingly, a strong majority supported the dogma. And to put it simply in the Catholic Church, whatever the Pope says, goes. Shout out to St. Peter. So in his final proclamation in 1854, Pope Pius IX formally defined the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, and virtually overnight, the Immaculate Conception of Mary, or her exemption from original sin, became a universally accepted concept worldwide. Since then, it finally ended the split between Catholics on this very issue. The Catholic Church would teach that Mary lacks original sin and remained sinless throughout her life. This declaration influenced Marian devotions to Mary, such as the feast day of the Immaculate Conception on December 8th, formulated the same year Pius IX declared the dogma. It was also reinforced by the reported Marian apparition at Lourdes in 1858, where Saint Bernadette claimed that Mary identified herself as the Immaculate Conception. So to sum it all up, we all sin and were born with original sin from Adam and Eve, but God made a promise that a man and a woman would be able to overcome sin. This, however, causes debate on whether Mary fits this role, but based on scripture, the Church Fathers, convening in the ecumenical councils, and finally papal decree, the Immaculate Conception is recognized by the Catholic Church. Overall, the Immaculate Conception has been revered by the Catholic world as a way of glorifying God and putting great respect on one of God's most beloved creations. However, it is important to understand the context of the mystery of faith. Is it possible that if God were to make someone sinless to fulfill a sinner role in his plan, he would do it? Or does creating someone sinless conflict with the idea that all have sinned and that Jesus came to save their world from all sin? Now I ask you this: what do you think about the Immaculate Conception? Please make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy, as I do generally like making these videos. Thank you.